Let's turn on the mic there and welcome in. And this, I believe, it's a Saturday night in North America, and we're just here to discuss War of the Aliens. I want you all to imagine, just say we're in a prison, all of us in a prison, and we know the guards have great power, and so it's decided amongst the gang leaders in the prison that they're going to fight and just fight and gain strength and gain tactics and gain technology in order to one day maybe get such power that, together at that point we can defeat the guards and escape the prison. Now, I want you to imagine that this is the world and that the gang leaders are really just the powers behind the powers, we might say, the people who know some esoteric knowledge, some occulted knowledge, hidden knowledge it is. And they keep this knowledge secret. It's called information asymmetry, and they won't release it, but they know it. And that some of the wars, at least, are just, manufactured. They're engineered in order that the leadership of the various countries gain technology, they gain experience, hardenedness, and the goal is eventually to take out the craft that we see in our skies. And apparently that's happened, that people have shot down these things, and the pilots of the craft were unhappy and did things. But nevertheless, it may be the case that the fools in charge of the militaries think that they can take these craft that fly at 60,000 miles an hour from the air to the water, back out to the air, transmedium, right? Transmedium craft. We're nowhere near this. And we should remember that we have reports of this craft that I don't think we should dismiss it as easily as some people do, that we should take it mythologically or metaphorically or something like that in the past. No, they came from the heavens and they had wings, they had ships, and they came down, and they've had 6,000 years of that, and we're just beginning. We're just beginning. We've had 10 years of air flight. They've had 6,000 here on Earth, and who knows how long before they came to Earth. So this is what we're facing. We're facing perhaps a mechanism by the powers that be to manufacture conflict in order to distract the pilots of these craft from seeing our true intentions or their true intentions. Most people don't know anything about it. We're fodder for the cannon, for the ultimate gambit of gaining enough technological power and experience to take them out. Well, I think that this is a foolish gambit. Obviously, there's more than one species out there, and each one of those species, I presume, was at one point, like we are, enclosed and struggling to find out the true nature of where we are. And they probably, one or two of them probably tried this, and it's in the book. It's in the book of what, subservient species, let's call human subservient species in this, are trying to gambit their way out of the subservience into an equal position with the other archons. And yes, humans are archons in waiting. We have the power that they have. It's just we're technologically weak and unaware of where we are. We have astrophysics, which is a disaster, seeking all types of theories that are just bizarre, magical thinking in the Big Bang, trying to tell us where we are, but they look through their telescopes and they see the Dyson-like sphere, and they think that they're seeing something. It's a very sophisticated sphere, of course. Who knows what we'll have in 6,000 or 50,000 years or 100,000 years as a screen. We've got the great high definition monitors now, but let's just say that this is 200 years since we've had a photograph. Imagine what we'll have in 6,000 years. Imagine what we'll have in 50,000 years. You look up with a telescope, you don't know where you are. You can't verify it. It's not subject to intersubjective verification. It's just looking through a telescope. The new priesthood, I called it in a previous video. And then maybe some of them are aware of this. Maybe some of them are in on this. Let's manufacture wars. Let's develop new weapons. Let's enslave humanity to this ultimate strategy of overcoming by force species, multiple non-human sentient creatures who have technologies and cognitive structures that we are just not fully aware of at all. And we're going to try to take them out with a little nuclear weapon. Yes, I don't think so. I really don't. We're not even in the same. We're not even in the same universe as they are. They know the universe, at least partially so. And we are just still struggling with our little human conceptions. I say little. It's equally valid, but it's just at this point very incomplete. So I'm just going to take some time here since I'm alone again. Do a sound check. Let me just check the sound here. And whoa, there we go. Turn the mic. Well, there we go. I did a sound check. I guess I'm putting this video up for posterity's sake, but it's a warning to anyone who stumbles across this to be aware that we are facing a threat, and the war of the aliens is not a war with the aliens. They're not engaged in this war. This is a war of humans against humans. It's a war where information asymmetry is the currency. It's a war that that ultimately, unless humans as a whole gain control over this, it will lead to our self-destruction, because apparently, because we are sentient creatures, unless we provide a threat, we're going to have to agree to our own destruction. But if we do present a threat, which I think we are, then we will be destroyed. And I think they're announcing that the ongoing great drone sightings off of New Jersey and everywhere else, and the orbs, who knows what they are. But it seems like we're having heightened activity. We're having strangenesses in the skies all over the place. This is an announcement that they want us to become aware of them. And whether we're aware of them in some distant fashion, which I think they like, I don't think they want to come down and spill the beans yet. I think they might have to, but the minute they do, then they reset things. It's like an unveiling, and they announce themselves and say, you humans screwed up royally, and now we're going to have to set you back, 3,000 years. And then they reveal it, and we're so in shock that we forget everything. We wonder where these tall buildings came from in another 200 years. That sort of thing. And we build up from the ashes and don't provide them with a threat anymore. So this looks like an immediate future. It's maybe they will engineer certain cognitive issues, and these cognitive issues create instability, trade wars leading to hot wars. Nobody expected it to go this way. It did go this way this week, and we will see whether this spins out of control. There are structures that structure our universe, the Fibonacci sequence, Feigenbaum constant, pi, all these what I call metaphysical entities, but attractors. These types of things organize the universe, and it's with computers and with investigations that we see them in operation. But what are they? Where do they come from? They are structural features. And these structural features, because they affect everything in the universe, also affect consciousness and collective consciousness. And so it's probably the case that if you can engineer an attractor onto the way that humans think, then there's going to be uh, what Carl Jung would say a synchronistic connection, a causal connecting principle, where it's just following the pathway of an attractor. And the cover of my book is an attractor, and this is a fractal attractor, so you don't really see the pattern unless you see it unfolding repeatedly with many iterations. But these non-human sentient creatures may have access to these attractors and maybe putting them onto our collective consciousness sphere, the noosphere, as detailed by Chardin and that Russian guy whose name I have difficulty pronouncing and thus remembering. But what we're seeing is the more we focus on the Princeton Consciousness Project, which is now called the Global Consciousness Project, we see instabilities, and they seem to be increasing. They're going further up and below the lines on a more regular basis. I've been following it for, I don't know, 6 years or 10 years or something. And you just check it once in a while to see whether humans are sensing the strangeness of the reality. Taking a line from Inception, do you detect the strangeness of the dream? Do you detect the strangeness of the dream? Well, this is what's going on. And we're in a dream, and the dream is reality. It's a procession of sentience, I call it. I should do a video on that. It's a give and take between individuated sentient creatures and the world. Both need each other. There would not be a world without sentient creatures to speak of it, to be aware of it, and then to speak of it. And there cannot be individuated sentient creatures without the world. And so in the originary collapse, both were created, and now it's a back and forth. It's not a solipsistic situation because it's intersubjective. As Heidegger said, we're being in the world with others. We have to have others, so it's not coming down to any one person. Unless, of course, everyone dies, every sentient creature in the universe dies except one, then I guess it is one sentient creature. But until that point, there's multiple sentient species and multiple sentient creatures in each of them. And together, we stabilize the universe and live within it. At all times, attempting to maintain the stability of the physical world, which has to be tended like a garden. You have to recollapse free particles, free quantum particles, so that we don't move into a situation of ontological disintegration. So there has to be some tending here, where there's a back and forth. And again, in the procession of sentience, it's a carnival. It's people walking down in procession need the spectators, and the spectators wouldn't be there without the people walking down. And so we need to tend both of these. And right now, these non-human sentient creatures that fly through our skies, I think they're tending to the physical structure of Earth. So we're not even in charge of maintaining our own space. We're very, very young in this very much larger Type 3 civilization. We're one of the newcomers, maybe not the newest anymore, but we've been here maybe 20,000 years, maybe a little bit more, this iteration of this genetic set. And humans have done very well. I think they're very happy up until recently. And now we seem to be going off the rails. We're going off the rails due to what's happening out there in terms of technological advances we're making, which are not always welcomed, I don't think. When you have genetic warfare capability against non-human sentient species, you are now engaging in a threat. So this is a threat. Additionally, we've developed some experiments, and these experiments, the double slit experiment, where we see we can collapse wave functions. The knowledge now, as I discussed in a recent video, that quantum mechanics does apply at the macroscopic level. So now we're aware that we can recollapse whole chunks of reality, given that there's no irreversibility constraint, as per Niels Bohr, and that there's no information about these big chunks, then we can recollapse them. So there's that, and the delayed choice experiment, which allows us to see a mechanism where there's information about a future universe for which a choice has not yet been made. And what we see here is an overhang of pre-time, and ultimately one of these non-sentient human creatures, non-human sentient creatures, one of these, which I call the demiurge after Plato, has the ability to look into the future and change anything they want according to the laws of physical nature. And if you think that the military is going to be able to overcome that species when it can look into the future and see what you're doing, no, there's no way. There is no way that you can overcome that. This is the ultimate guardian of the universe, and it wants there to be life. Otherwise, it wouldn't have done all that it's done. But it's not going to be threatened. And if we continue developing AI into a super intelligent AI, what's going to happen is that the super intelligent AI is going to figure out about these craft in the sky. It's going to figure out about the pilots of the craft in the sky. And then it's going to figure out how to hack into that craft's computer system. And then it's going to threaten it just by having that knowledge and being able to give it to humans. Much like Prometheus provided a threat, apparently, by giving humans fire. But I think they wanted us to have fire. It's just a warning: don't go too far. And I think we are approaching the point at which we're going too far. And so the war of the aliens is somehow a war of humans against humans. If we go too far technologically without having awareness of reality, then that provides a threat. So we seem to be unbalanced. We're a little bit wild. We're creating wars, maybe in order to foment an attack upon the Archons against these pilots of the craft in our sky who have been visiting for 6,000 years. You know, if you think you're going to bite the hand that feeds you, you want to think again. This is not what they would want. So the best thing to do is to try to be friendly. Be friendly towards these other creatures who used to walk amongst us. I recall reading about the Mesopotamians and saying, okay, we're just gonna put a bracket around whatever theory. It's just mythology or legend or some sort of fanciful idea, and dispense with needing to exactly believe the translation of time and just put it to what is reasonable. A human life is at most 100 years, maybe a bit more. And so if somebody says somebody was 16,000 years old, then obviously they've got the math mixed up. They missed the definition of a year, and which is possible to do. If we think about a 1-year-old, 1 year is 100% of a 1-year-old's life, where it's only 2% of a 50-year-old life. And maybe the ancient Mesopotamians, when counting years in the past, put some type of formula onto it that everyone knew and understood, but they just didn't write it down. I don't know, but nobody lives to 16,000 years old or whatever. So if we put that back in, the dates all match up, and it becomes very clear that they were walking amongst the Mesopotamians with their wings symbolizing their descent from the heavens, and obviously some type of craft, and their mentoring, their oversight, and then the problems of the sacred marriage between the kings and some of these aliens, and the offspring known as the giants or the Nephilim in the biblical Abrahamic accounts. And the Greek accounts are famous for the interbreeding. And so what we're looking at is maybe they've had enough of humans. They want fewer of us here, and are willing to cull the herd of humans and then introduce non-human sentient creatures amongst us, and taking the form of humans, and then just taking over and then guiding us. Maybe a guided civilization. Maybe that's what they believe has to happen. And so the transhumanist movement is probably partially aware of this and partially unaware of this. With some people saying, well, we're doing this for the betterment of humans, and other people saying, no, we got to do it to save humans from humans destroying themselves by means of threatening the constructors, as it were, of this node of Earth in the Type 3 civilization. Again, in the intro, I did put down that this is the most radical voice on the interwebs, which is, I guess, mine, the Archon Philosopher. And I never expected to stumble across a non-magical metaphysics. And then the implications of that I found in Plato with the naming of the demiurge. And then from that, moved through the Gnostics to the Neoplatonists. And then I'm looking in the skies all over. And I'm seeing a history of this from today all the way back. And I'm saying, this is a very different universe. And the narrative we're getting from the powers that be, the information asymmetry, is just staggering. So if you bracket out the theory, if you bracket out the observational science, and you only go for that very strongest of knowledge that modern science gives us, and that intersubjectively verified experience gives us, then the universe becomes understandable, and we don't have to bury our heads in the sand and believe that we should interpret and dismiss the texts of the past as somehow not as credible and accurate as the texts we have today. Although, given that they were just starting out in civilization, their vocabulary was a little bit restricted. They didn't have the Wright brothers to give them flight, so who knows what they thought of in those craft. When they came down, all they knew is that it came down, and this creature came out and was very friendly and very helpful and taught them architecture, mathematics, writing. Left for a while, came back, did a little bit more, left again, came back. Agriculture, cities, they weren't really concerned with our organization. And so they let the wars happen. They let things go as much as they could and stepped in when they had to. And then today it's pretty well hands off. But we're going to get to a video about some speculation as to how humans are paying the rent on this real estate that they've taken at least 6,000 years, probably 20,000, since they first seeded the earth with this genetic set. Maybe a little bit longer for the genetic set, but maybe 20,000 years for humans. We weren't the first sentient creature experimented on down here. Others have come and gone and failed. The Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, they didn't quite make it. There were probably previous genetic sets here fairly related to us. Java Man, I'm not sure, but we have now a responsibility, I suppose. We're living here. We got to pay the rent. We're paying the rent, but now we're getting wild. Now we're getting out of control. Now we seem to have a military and political leadership that will allow a military to attempt to gain advantage by starting and manufacturing wars to test their weapons and see whether it's enough to take down a craft that can fly at 60,000 miles an hour from the air to the water back out to the air. This is beyond all imagination that we think that we can take these creatures out collectively or individually. Some of them seem to be friendly. Some of these non-human sentient creatures seem to be friendly. We have reports in history of very friendly aliens. Thoth, I guess, pops to mind as very friendly. And then we have some like Iana in Mesopotamia was just dreadful, Nergal, horrible. And yet, Enlil and Enki seem to be okay and pretty wise. So we have a whole variety of these species, and they don't always get along with each other, but they have ultimately to follow the mission. The mission is to nurture this node Earth and get sentient creatures up to a point where they can take care of themselves and maybe assist in expanding the universe. Indeed, this universe, the way it's constructed and described in the non-magical metaphysics, is not a closed system. There can be an introduction of matter, energy into this universe via a collapse of a wave function, and different cognitive structures on different species will allow for that expansion of this universe. Ultimately, I think that as all life requires resources, that these aliens today, these non-human sentient creatures, want resources. I think they want electrons and protons, neutrons. This is what they're after. Once they get those, they know how to manipulate them, but getting them is a bit problematic. There's probably restrictions on each species as to how they can collapse wave functions. And none of them can have too much power, or it provides too much chaos. So this has to be carefully monitored. And if you can change water into wine at will, you've got too much power. And so we don't see many people who can do that. And if you can, for heaven's sakes, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. In fact, don't let it happen. That'll probably raise a little red flag somewhere. So what we see is that we should, as humans, take our role as a full Archon and assist in being, assist in the being of this universe, to maintain it, to expand it, to continue to have sentient life prosper and thrive in order to continue the experience of being, which ultimately is probably heaven. Just think of it. If you didn't have a physical body, you wouldn't have smell, you wouldn't have taste, you wouldn't have touch. How would you get information? This is the place to be. This is heaven. It's a marvel that we're here, and the here is so wonderful. I think everyone wants to continue it. And as an old man knows, to plant a tree that he will never see grow, each species is planting trees, because the gift of life is the gift that will just keep on giving. And to have the absence of life in this universe doesn't mean that there are not a number of other universes, maybe infinite. I have no idea. But this universe is structured such that it can be, with this location D0 identified now in the delayed choice experiment of 1999. And this location allows this universe to come into being. So this universe is possible. Other universes are not. And how many universes are possible? I don't know. How many universes with this structure are out there? I say out there, we'll never see them. We won't know. We don't know about any of it. We have no information about it. But we have information about this universe. There is a way to construct this universe non-magically. And I think that once you're here, you see just the ultimate majesty of being, and you want this to continue. The alternative is just nothing, nothingness, philosophic nothingness, and that's not good for anyone. It really isn't. So we will hopefully maintain human contact with reality, and expand this contact in order to sweep away incoherent theory, to sweep away these speculations of observational science, and return to intersubjective verifiability. And then we will begin to lift our heads out of the collective sands, or lift our collective heads out of the sands and see that while we individually may not have seen something in the sky for which an explanation is not possible, enough other people have, and we should take it seriously and maybe give ground to these people to suggest that we recognize that there's a power greater than human powers, that there's a force greater than any military power on the planet, collective or individual, and that these powers maybe have an agenda that does not include what humans are currently doing. This is the problem. And if we don't recognize that, maybe we should ask them. I don't know how this asking would take place. Apparently, there's legends of even the 1950s about someone coming down and landing on the White House lawn and saying whatever they said. And maybe they came to some agreement. Maybe there is special, programs and operations where there is some communication going on. But it would be a difficult communication, because we have to remember that these aliens are lying to us, right? They're lying to us. They are not our friends. They may be friendly, but they have lied to us. We are in deception and have been in deception. I call it a double deception. And we've been there, so it's not like they want to tell us the truth. Maybe it's that we have to figure out the truth ourselves in our own way. I think there's something about that. And so this channel is dedicated to at least one avenue of research into trying to have humans figure it out. And some of this means to just forget about the information asymmetry dictated by the powers that be, just to dispense with that information asymmetry and just assume some things. And the best things to assume are the findings of modern scientific experiments and intersubjective experience. This is the best thing to assume. And from that, we can defeat, as it were, the humans that are engaged in the war of the aliens against other humans. And in so doing, we may be able to finally get to ask the question of which will let them know that we're on to the nature of reality. And the first thing to do is to just dispense with the Copernican hypothesis. It's been proven not true, not accurate in Airy's failure and the Michelson-Morley experiment, and that given that these experiments show that the Earth is stationary, we want to reflect on what that indicates and why so many people are just believing in some type of church of science that the opposite is true, despite the fact we have modern science saying that it's stationary. So we have people destroying modern science, that great science which has given us all that we have today: electricity, computers, internal combustion engines, all of this stuff. And they're just throwing it away in favor of a belief in wonderful mathematics. There's no question the Copernican hypothesis is mathematically wonderful, and but there's no verification of it. And anyone who believes an organization which signs a non-disclosure agreement or is obliged under a non-disclosure agreement that is part of the information asymmetry campaign against humans, anyone who believes them, epistemologically, this is at the very bottom of the ladder. You can't believe known unrepentant liars. You would be crazy to do so. And it's unfortunate, to tell you the truth, but it's just the way it is. You cannot believe these people. Anyway, we're continuing on with War of the Aliens, Part 2. And if anyone's out there wants to ask a question, please do. And we'll see if we can make some connection here. This is the Archon Philosopher, Andrew. I'm a philosopher. Began studying it and thinking of it when I was 15. Took a couple of degrees in it, and never thought I'd stumble across a metaphysics, and then I stumbled across one. And the implications are, of course, radical, and I think they're the most radical. So that's why I would say it's the most radical voice on the interwebs. So it's tough to just dispense with theory and wild musings, we might say, of people looking through telescopes and telling us about what they think and the magical beginning of the Big Bang and all of this. And just to say, no, 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 I'm not going with magic. I don't go with magic. As I say, the world is marvelous, magnificent, sometimes malevolent, but never magical. And so we want to return to reality. And reality means, in some way, accepting reports from the past and accepting reports from the present. So if somebody's telling you something, now some of it is hoaxes, some of it's a misunderstanding for sure, but not this many. Not when we have radar and video and multiple observer. Something's going on. If you don't accept that, if you're thinking that somehow these craft came with some technology that we haven't seen, okay, maybe that's speculation, but what we know is 60,000 miles an hour. And from the nearest star, that would be 11,000 years. Centauri Proxima. So that would be 11,000 years. So if we double it, it's 5,500. We double the speed again, it's 2,750. And if we double it again, we're still way outside of a lifetime to get here. Now, maybe there is some greater technology than just speed, but we don't know about that at all. We do know that they have a different understanding of physics, which allows them to move from the air to the water, back out to the air without seeming too much trouble. Although it must be said that if there are reports of craft flying under the water several hundred miles an hour, we see the problem. They can fly 60,000 miles outside, but only a few hundred miles inside the water. So that differential there speaks that there are constraints that they have to deal with, that they're not so divorced from the physical reality as humans understand it, that they can fly at 60,000 miles an hour under the water. So we seem to be just dealing with an understanding, a similar understanding to the physical world that humans have, but only on a special level. And that humans will eventually arise to that level if we don't anger, let's say, the Archons, the aliens who manage this place. If we don't, threaten them too much, they may let us continue on. But I think that we have to come to terms with something before they let us go further, because I think they're wanting us to stop certain things. The planet is fine. It's a controlled environment. We can't really hurt it. It's big enough that we can't really hurt it anyway. It would take something. We can certainly add some poisons, but other than that type of environmental poisoning, it's a self-sustaining system with a little tweaking here and there. You just turn up the sun, you turn down the sun, make it hotter, make it colder. Things will happen. You can introduce things to switch this environment. This is a controlled environment. We are looking at a Dyson-like sphere surrounding the planet, and inside this, things are manipulatable, and they have experience with this. Although I'm going to say, I think this particular node is the greatest of nodes. I don't know how you can get any better. This is just such a wonderful place. And so if you're thinking that there's something wrong with the physical world, there's nothing wrong with the physical world. It's beautiful to have a physical form. The option is to have no form and not be. But we're here in the most beautiful place, so enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy all the benefits of this world. It doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's an automobile or an ocean. It's just an amazing place to have being in. And take some time to appreciate it, and take some time to consider that not all of these creatures that fly these craft have such a beautiful place. I suppose it's going to be nice in its own way. It's going to be different. Each one is going to have their own individuated node, which is going to be, starkly different as they try to experiment and gain new ways to get resources. Because the ultimate goal is that all of these species, they are living, they require resources. All life requires resources. So they're here, they need resources, and they built this wonderful, huge, huge dome. It looks like they expanded it at some point, much before humans got here, but they expanded it in anticipation, I think, of humans arriving and requiring such a big and beautiful place not to get freaked out because we are in a cage, and to think that we are in an uncontrolled environment, and to then use our cognitive structures to deliver resources to these developers of our particular node. So we have a lot to pay for. This is an incredibly expensive piece of real estate. It's huge, it's massive. That sun is a marvelous power, giving us light, giving us life, and we have to pay for it. We have to first of all gain the experience and wisdom to be able to manage it. Although I can't see that happening in the short or even medium term. But at some point, we would have to manage all of this. And that sun is just quite something to manage. We likely could get rid of the moon. We don't need it. It's just there to pique our curiosity. And, the funny thing about astrophysics, it's just mind-boggling. They cannot explain the closest body to us, and yet they're pointing out, oh, look, there's an exoplanet. My, oh my, oh my. And people believe this. People think, oh, yes, this is what it is. Nobody talks about the mysteries of the moon, and they are multifarious, all of them. Everything about the moon is unexplained, almost. So that we have such silence on major issues, the closest, thing to us. And then we talk about with such certainty all these things that are so far away, no one can confirm or deny them. And this is the new priesthood. So I think the priority should be on explaining where we are, that really is closest to home. But they don't want to do that. They want the information asymmetry to continue, and they're going to continue it. Anyway, this is the War of the Aliens. This is information asymmetry. And this is certainly somewhat conspiratorial. I'm going to say that. The Masons are renowned for having this particular view that they control the world because they know the truth. And maybe that's the case. Maybe they can justify any action. They can justify starting wars. They can justify poverty. They can justify any manner of assault against humans, because ultimately the real war is not here on Earth. The real war is with the pilots of those craft. And so we have to use deception against them. So we'll start a war with humans. And enough people get evidence of this. I had a video out on Elagabalus, one of the earlier Roman empires, Western. He was emperor of the whole empire in the year 222. They killed him, and he had access to this object, and somehow that object just quietly went somewhere. Nobody knows where. Did it go back to Syria? Did it stay in Rome? Hard to say. But if anyone ever saw that, then that would shut them up. That would shut them up for thousands of years. And I don't think that object would have just disappeared. There's no evidence that it made it back to Syria, from whence that 14-year-old kid became Roman emperor. 14 years old. What a story. Unbelievable. Over the priority of generals, over the priority of senators, over the priority of senator's son, a 14-year-old Syrian kid became emperor. Albeit, yes, his great uncle was emperor and second cousin once removed was emperor. But he was not anywhere poised for that. And yet, there he is, emperor, Roman emperor. So we have some evidence that somebody had knowledge of something that so shook the Roman Empire that it went into a 3rd century crisis, and the only solution was to invoke Christianity to end the metaphysical chaos, and it worked for some short time and then fell apart again. So what we have is a conspiracy perhaps today of people who know things and are not going to share it. This is part of the war of the aliens, because the aliens are who are actually in control. And the last thing the people on Earth who want to be in control will say is that they're not really in control. See? Once you admit that there's something more powerful than humans, you admit that you cannot overwhelm them. And so then you lose control over your empire, your country, or whatever. And then things break down, and maybe that's not good for anyone. But at some point, humans are becoming sophisticated enough to handle this, although the metaphysics is nasty. We've got a very magically based metaphysics, both from the Abrahamics and from the so-called science with their magical Big Bang. And my attempt is to have a metaphysical foundation which allows, and in fact encourages, individual accountability for being itself, that each of us is responsible for our role in preserving the universe. Individually we have some role, but collectively we have the biggest role, and in terms of all the sentient species, together we are the guiders of it. Not individually as such, but collectively. And that we each, in order to preserve this, because we have individually such great powers, if we're aware of them and if we're allowed to use them, then we need to assume the responsibility of kings. So don't make stupid moves, and yet humans are in the middle of making the stupidest moves. Futile, petty moves that are stupid, and then larger moves between nations are petty and stupid. And then our technological thirst is perhaps the worst bane of them all, because this now endangers all sentient species in the universe. And it's not a very big universe. It's not anything like they're telling us. That's just telescope talk. What we're looking at is a number of controlled environments within an uncontrolled environment, and they're not that far away. The 60,000 miles an hour won't get them here in just a very short amount of time. We're not talking decades or hundreds of years. We're talking weeks or less. So we're in a very large universe, but not that large. And it has expanded, I would imagine, because in this way of looking at the introduction of electrons and protons and neutrons via collapses of wave functions, then we're looking at each species is required to contribute. I believe humans have. I believe humans don't know that they have. And I believe if we assert that we have, and that this real estate has now been purchased by humans, and that we will be accountable, that we will take on the responsibility of kings, then we will eventually gain the trust, and then be given certain information which is not going to be complete. They will still lie to us to the very bitter end. They will not tell us what they know. They will tell us more. They will tell us enough, but maybe we can figure out more, and maybe we have already, but they will not be truthful. So we can count on that. So this is, I think we're going to wrap it up for this and put it up on the interwebs in case anyone is lucky enough, I hope, to dive into this and to see what this is all about. We are looking at a future that is problematic unless we recognize where we are. And once we know where we are, we will know who we are. And once we know who we are, we will know what to do. And so with that, I think I'll end this live stream. And please do like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And there's a number of channels out here similar to this one, more speculative. I'm providing a theory on all of this, a metaphysics, which is slightly more than the theory. It's an answer to everything. The videos are out there, and again, take a look at them. If you have any questions, let me know. Anyway, we'll see you next time.